Our new song is available for pre-order at getcominghome.com. Check it out. Download iTunes to pre-order and support our work. The son of the would-be Trump assassin, Ryan Routh, was arrested on child abuse imagery charges. Apparently, the feds, investigators say they discovered hundreds of files with child abuse imagery. I'm trying to be very family friendly as best I can. This is shocking stuff. During a search of Orrin, that's his name. His name is Orrin. Orrin Routh's residence in Guilford County, North Carolina on Saturday, conducted in connection with an investigation unrelated to child exploitation. The two charges he faces include receipt of this material and possession of said material. The unrelated investigation referred to his father, who remains in custody. A spokesperson with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of North Carolina confirmed to ABC News. Investigators said the imagery was found on a Samsung Galaxy Note device located inside his primary bedroom in the residence, as well as another Galaxy Note device in his possession. A review of the SD card located in the device revealed that it contained hundreds of these images, child abuse. Prosecutors wrote in the criminal complaint these files include videos from a known series created outside the state of North Carolina. This just seems absolutely insane. But the crazy thing about it is Epstein, now Diddy, the guy who's trying to go after Donald Trump's kid is there are a lot of people that believe there's this great conspiracy theory of, child abusers at powerful, levels of government. And this just has people saying, what the is going on?
I mean, I think it's really creepy. I think it makes people unhappy because they realize how sensitive all of these issues are. What I find kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but this was the son who gave an interview saying, my father was a great, good father, and I don't really know why he did this. But of course, he hated Trump like all reasonable people would. And you want to say this person's yardstick for what's reasonable is becoming more and more warped to me. I don't know that I trust his judgment.
Jeez.
I think that sexual abuse material is actually really rampant in our country. And I think one of the reasons we're hearing about it more is because people are starting to take it more seriously. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, for years, when we heard about Pizzagate and so on, it was a little difficult to know if this was just some outrageous allegation being made or whether there really are these powerful pedophile rings in politics in Hollywood. I guess I'm beginning to move to the fact that some of this may be real, right? And
Epstein we know it.
Well, that's right.
And now Diddy. What's going on with Diddy? So Usher apparently deleted all of his Twitter account, but then came back and said it was hacked and it got restored. But Pink deleted her Twitter account. And, apparently, I don't know if Serge, you know anything about this? You were saying something like people are quitting, or I don't know.
Serge was saying before the show that a bunch of music executives are quitting, but he took away his own microphone, so now we can't have him comment on it.
I think I'll just say the obvious on this, that it's obviously extremely gross, but more widespread than we might realize, and that's very unsettling. It's obviously sickening and unthinkable to polite society, but there exists this gross underworld, and I think it goes from the elites to non-elites, and I don't think this is unique to just rich people or poor people. I think this is a sickness that exists across the board, and people need to be on the lookout and concerned for.
I think this, what Hannah Claire was saying, is that people are starting to take it more seriously. I think people are starting to realize how serious it is, and I think when we learn about what Epstein was involved in, and now these Diddy stories, which is, I think the bulk of his story is just he was filming politicians with these weird romps and orgies, and there was trafficking involved, and there were underage girls and stuff. These are all allegations, by the way, all the allegations. I think the powerful people who are involved in this have a vested interest in making sure the media stays away from it. And so if you're a billionaire, if you're Epstein, I think he was worth half a billion. Yeah, he's gonna, if he's got blackmail material on somebody and you've got some connections to major media publications, that story ain't coming out. Look at the story that James O'Keefe broke with Amy Rohrbacher, I think her name was. And she's like, we had Epstein. We had the story and they killed it. They said not to do it. So you have to wonder if Epstein makes a few phone calls and says no. And then they just fall in line. So...
And of course, interestingly, Ghislaine Maxwell has not spilled the beans. She could have.
Yeah.
And she knows, but she's not telling, and that's kind of significant. I mean, look, when you look at the Routh family, if you want to call it that, we have two defining features. On the case of the father, we have Trump derangement syndrome to the max.
Yes.
And the kid,
What do you mean? All reasonable people hate Trump.
that's right, all reasonable. And then with the kid, you've got, let's call it the Moulin Rouge Society, and these are two phenomena that you see on the left. I mean, you see both. You see Trump derangement syndrome all over the place. And then you see a lot of an attempt, if you will, to pull down the moral codes of our society, which is going to open the door to all kinds of taboos falling by the wayside, and the Democrats, will cheer it.
Yeah.
I will say on this issue, one of the ways that it touches into other issues is like free speech and privacy issues with some apps not working with the feds to find perpetrators.
Like Telegram?
Yeah. So, for example, Telegram recently was embroiled in this stuff because they don't work with the feds at all when it comes to any of these cases. So Telegram has kind of become a hub for predators as a result of this stuff. Because if you're doing illegal things, Telegram is known to not work with the feds. It'll become your app of choice. This you obviously have to weigh with working with the feds and collaborating with them. And if you make a backdoor to your program for one reason, it's a backdoor for any reason per se. So it's a security concern. And
Well, now I think after that whole dude getting arrested in France, they removed some of like the terms of service. It's something about like protections or whatever. The implication, I guess, and I haven't looked enough into this, but that if you're on Telegram, there's going to be a backdoor for law enforcement.
And Telegram has always said, like, they work with law enforcement to a certain capacity. They don't, they have their certain values that they stand by, but they also meet certain EU standards.
NYPD, they have not worked with NYPD. Like, they constantly complain about how they have many cases that Telegram hasn't worked with them with. I also think the FBI has come out and said, like, the Telegram hasn't worked with them at all. Maybe I would be surprised, frankly, if they didn't have a back door that they were able to engineer themselves, but I don't think you could use that legally, so therefore, so.
I mean, I think with a lot of this, and I am not sure what language YouTube's okay with, but I think our cultural understanding of pornography has changed so much that it went from like at one point being this like part of the sex positive movement and being like some people do this because it's expression and this, that, and the other. But as we come up against really horrifying things that I think people don't want to talk about, you have that relationship of like there have to be boundaries and there have to be protection, especially in this case, minors who cannot consent to be a part of this. It's always abuse. It's always exploitative. And I think the cultural revelation of like the sexualization of children, as it becomes more entrenched in our mainstream conversation, you will see more conversations like this, which is like this guy has a series of images that was known to police and made outside the state because they are trying to stop something that they are far behind. It's very different from the conversation about like this family seems to have some serious problems, but it also speaks to like our cultural issue, which is like this is something that law enforcement is chasing. They're not preemptively preventing right now because they can't.
I've got some serious concerns about this coming month, so I will be purchasing some water and dry food, gold maybe.
I feel like you haven't said the magic Civil War word in a long time.
It's not even about Civil War. And the New York Times last week wrote that world leaders are concerned the U.S. is about to devolve into a civil war. Like they were mentioning Keir Starmer talking about something related to this. I'm just saying, I don't even know about election. It doesn't even have to be any kind of civil conflict. I mean, look what's going on in these cities. Just Philly the other night, where you have the Ring of Fire. They've got flamethrowers. They're attacking cops and smashing cop cars. I mean,
you've got Chicago, where you've got the Venezuelan gang Trendy Aragua now taking up against all the Chicago gangs.
Oh man, that's crazy.
And think of where that's going to go.
They're going to lose. They do not understand. I don't think these Venezuelan gangs get it. I mean, maybe if we're talking about like, I don't know, Colombian revolutionary or like counterinsurgency, whatever, like actual combat war and like the cartels, MS-13, grade above. But this Tren de Aragua stuff, I think these guys are wholly unprepared for what they're getting themselves into in Chirac. Like these Chicago gangbangers are going to... You see that video out of Aurora where the gangbangers, the Venezuelans knock on the door and then they're like banging on the door? yeah, if that was Chicago, bullets would come through the other side. You knock like that. That they don't get.
In Venezuela, the gangs are protected by the Chavista regime, and so they get state protection. They get state protection even in prison, and so then they're unleashed here. But I think you're right. They're not quite prepared for what they might be going up against with some of the American gangs.
I don't know. I was in when I was in Venezuela. The way it was explained to me is that the most common crime you're going to experience is called an express kidnapping. They'll wait for someone by an ATM. They'll walk up to you. They'll wait for you to take the ATM and then point a gun at you and pull you into the car. While you're in the car, you give us all your money. Then they ask you where you want to go. They'll drop you off where you want to go. And I was like, really? They'll be like, yeah. After once they take your stuff, they'll be like, where can we drop you off? And it's like you get a free ride out of it.
Most expensive Uber of all time.
And then, a lot of people are like, just drop me off here or whatever. And that express kidnapping was very common. There are a lot of murders. I believe there's more murders in Caracas than anywhere else, in any other city in the world, but not per capita. Honduras, I believe, or maybe Belize, but I think one of the two has more per capita. The thing about Chicago is, and I can't perhaps speak to the greater of Venezuela. When I was there, I didn't experience this kind of stuff, but there's cultural violence where with the gangs, there's a combination of finance, honor, territory, things like this. So what these gangbangs in Chicago are saying is that these Venezuelan gangs don't understand the rules. They're coming in and they're on their turf. They're engaging in business. And so the gangs are all of the gangs are basically talking to each other like, yo, what are these guys doing? Let's say gang number 1 and gang number 2 know where that boundary is. The police have maps showing the gang territories. And the gangs know if you go into someone else's territory, there's certain things you can and cannot do. But now all of the gangs are like, yo, these Venezuelan gangs don't care about our arrangements. And so that's a recipe for disaster. But it would be funny if it unites the Chicago gangs and then the Chicago gangs end up pushing out the Venezuelan gangs, and it cleans up crime.
It's like domestic v foreign gangs.
But it ends the crime somehow.
This is like kind of a movie material, right? It's like a movie plot, and quite honestly, it could be an extremely violent gang movie, or it could be a comedy. You could actually go in either direction.
This is a great idea. It's the reverse Avengers. It's basically like you get one gangbanger, and it's like one day he sees Venezuelan gangs like robbing a liquor store. And then, he walks in and he sees a bunch of other gang members are all beat up. So he has to now go and recruit all the leaders of all the other gangs to form one super gang to go up against the international cartel or whatever.
And what are they fighting for?
Chicago gangs unite.
They're killing each other for the right to sell you Chinese fentanyl in Chicago. So
largely,
it's
always goes back to China.
That's where it's going back to. That's why they're killing each other for. So.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.